call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bear?
Present.
Commissioner Walls?
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Present.
Commissioner Duckham? Commissioner Tompkins?
Here.
Commissioner Mahoney?
Here.
Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Elwell?
Here.
Chairman Shotwell?
Here.
7 present.
This is your first opportunity for public comment. Public comment guideline, each individual will state their name. You have 3 minutes to address the board. You may only address the board once under public comment opportunity, and you may not yield your time to others. Board members will not debate or answer questions at this time. Public comment.
Good morning, John Wilson, City of Jackson. This morning you're going to get a slide presentation for the senior millage presentation. A few questions that hopefully the director can answer while she is giving the presentation. First of all, the slide presentation that I viewed and read was from 2018 numbers. Now, I don't know if there's much of a difference between the 2018 and 2019 numbers, but anyways, the slide did state that it was 2018 numbers. With that, the 2018 Department of Aging budget was approximately $3.5 million, and approximately of that $3.5 million, the general fund in 2018 funded $743,000 approximately. That was again 2018. I didn't look up the 2019 or even the new 2020 budget to see what the numbers are, but it states on page 25 of this slide presentation from the Department of Aging that the general fund is no longer available for senior programs. So I'm not sure if that means the general fund is no longer funding any part of the Department of Aging budget. And it also states on page 28 of the slide presentation, again, states that the general fund is not available and that grant revenue is stagnant. And I guess the grant revenue is state funding. If that's the case, is it stagnant, or has there been any cuts in state funding to the Department of Aging? And if so, how much and what percentage of the budget would that be? Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Public comment is now closed. Mr. Overton. Sorry. We have to approve the minutes. I apologize. Entertain a motion? I have a motion and second. Any questions, corrections, deletions? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Duly carried. No, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm not sure where Zoe is this morning, but hopefully she'll turn up. In the meantime, we can just move on to Department of Aging presentation.
Okay.
Good morning, Marcy.
Good morning. I think my PowerPoint went away, so just a moment. Senior millage, it's 0.25 mils of our property taxes. So what I'm talking about today is an overview of what Jackson County Department on Aging services are and how it fits with serving our community of older adults and their family caregivers. So we have 2 focuses: social, education, and recreation. That's about 20% of our resources. And the other 80% are senior and family supports, so I'll explain each of these more thoroughly. So with our social, education, and recreation, we have 7 senior nutrition sites and then 2 food with friends sites. One's at Reed Manor, one's at Grass Lake, where we drop off the meals and staff at those locations handle the programs. So there's some data listed as far as the number of meals provided. And I used 2018 numbers because that's a complete count for an entire calendar year, which is the budget year, this, for our data as well as our budgets, as far as actual money that revenue received and expenses. And with the social and educational part, there's a lot of a variety of programs available depending on a person's interest. And the value in this is to keep people active and engaged with other people, because studies have shown that health declines if people don't have that social interaction, or if they're not learning something or volunteering. Again, that component of interacting with other people, getting out in the community, which is just it prevents loneliness and prohibits the further decline in physical and mental health. So we do have a variety of programs that are offered. And then with our senior and family support services, these are services that help people in their homes so that they can live independently. And it lowers the possibility of their needing further services that might cost more. Pardon me. So the first piece of this is information. People want to know, my loved one's in the hospital, what should I consider? What will Medicare cover? What's covered in the nursing home? If they come home, what services are there? What's the eligibility? So we are the resource point for information about older adult services, whether their services are provided by the county or another agency. And also we give information about Medicare. People are new to Medicare, what supplemental insurance plan should they have, what will cost the best for them. We're not selling insurance, so we give well-informed, neutral information. And people save money because they come and talk with a Medicare staff person or volunteer. They change their plan, and we keep track of that, and so they're able to lower their costs. And the citizen survey for 3 years, but this last citizen survey, 81% of people surveyed in the county say that information about services is essential or very important. So that is one of the important things that we provide. Then other services in the home, personal care, that's bathing assistance. Homemaker is routine light house cleaning. It's every other week, includes laundry, errands, that type of works for people who have limited mobility and can't push the vacuum or lean down to clean the bathtub. Many times they have family members who are assisting, but they're either out of town or the family is doing other help for their loved one, like getting them to appointments. So having their house cleaned every other week is a benefit, and again, helps them remain independent. Respite is when someone's caring for someone else around the clock. So respite is when we have a worker be with the person who needs the care so that the caregiver can leave and do errands and get things done that they need to do in order to care for that person. We have grab bar installation, repairing handrails, that's called chore, counseling and intense care management. Sometimes there's situations where it's not an adult protective services situation, but the person has a lot of needs. So the social worker will meet one-on-one with them and help them connect with the services that they need and maybe do some short-term grief therapy counseling. Largest program is Meals on Wheels. And it's the nutritious meals, up to 14 meals a week. We average 1,016 meals a day just for the Meals on Wheels. When you include the senior nutrition sites, it's about 1,200 meals a day. But it's also that meal driver checking to be sure that the person's okay. And if there's a question whether or not they're okay, an emergency contact person is called or 911 may be called. There's been times where a driver, people do need to be gone for doctor appointments. They need to let us know, otherwise we think the worst. When we know they're to be home and they're not, the driver will look, there's many times the driver will look through the door window or a window and somebody's on the floor. So they'll call 911. There's times where a driver will look at the person and know something's not right, they're not talking the way they normally do, and they'll call 911, and then the office will call the emergency contact person. This happens numerous times throughout the year. And for many people, the driver's the only person they'll see that day, that week, or some people that month. It's that meal driver that, again, checks on them to make sure they're okay. And every 6 months, the social worker goes and visits each person to do what we call an intake, or an assessment, just again to find out how they're doing, connect them with other services in the community. I mentioned the lighthouse cleaning twice a month. So of the in-home services and our meals, including Meals on Wheels, we served 4,598 people in 2018 with over 29,000 hours of service. And technology is great. It's done a lot of benefit for older adults now in their homes. I know of some adult children who've installed cameras in their parents' home. This is kind of in the infancy stage, but you still need a person to go in and clean the house, deliver that meal to make sure the person's okay. So we are human services. There is that component. That's very valuable for our older citizens. And we target people who are limited income so that they don't have the money to private hire this work. And then if they're lower income and eligible for other services, like through Tomei PACE or Region 2 Area Agency on Aging, we connect them with those other services because we want them to receive those other services that can give them more hours of house cleaning and bathing assistance than what we can do. Before I get to the numbers, a couple of examples of people that we're helping. A woman who's blind and her children live outside of the area and they both work full-time. So by having homemaker service and getting her grocery shopping, they know that that's taken care of. A 90-year-old woman who was close to the poverty level as far as income, she was being taken advantage of by a person in her apartment complex. They were charging her $4 for homemaker service, and they weren't doing all the work. So then the senior's son contacted the Department on Aging for a worker to come every 2 weeks and do routine cleaning. Personal care is done when a daughter's caring for a dad. A personal care worker to give dad a bath works better. Same with son taking care of a mother. Again, we target low income when it comes to the in-home services. More with the bathing assistance and the lighthouse cleaning. Respite, we don't have those income limitations, and meals we don't. And a safety rail for a bed. Thank you for getting my rail. I'm sleeping without fear of falling again. So those are just a couple of the examples. It's the people that we're making a difference for and their family members. So now with the numbers. So the first senior millage was in 2004, and it was $0.25 mil. And then when it was up for renewal in 2012, the economy was still pretty not growing at that point. So the Board of Commissioners decided to continue the $0.25 mil. So in 2018, you see the figure, it was $1,106,000. And then the general fund money that is supporting us, that is particularly used for human resources, the finance department, IT, all the support services we need, our building, our insurances, all the heat, everything. That's what we need in order to provide the services that we provide. That's the general fund. And then the grants, federal and state grants, over time that piece of the pie has been shrinking because the grant funds have not increased. So as expenses increase, the portion that's covered by grants is getting smaller in that piece of the pie. It's, for example, federal funds for the nutrition services have not increased for 10 years, but there's been 10 years of costs increase. This is just another way to show where our revenue sources are. The blue are grants, and then the yellow shows you general fund. Red is the senior millage. So that's another way to look at it, and another way to see what is the largest program, and that is Meals on Wheels. And this is a way to show by group of program where the budgets are. So the gray area is the social work, that's the in-home assessments, the chore, grab bar, handrail installation information such as Medicare and what services are available, and then the administrative piece are in the gray portion. So meals and home care are the two of the largest areas of service that we provide. So what's nice with the Department on Aging Services is that it delays or even prevents higher cost options for people. By having that nutritious meal and maintaining a person's health, by lowering risk of tripping and falling because someone is coming in to clean the house, that means fewer trips to the hospital, lower trips to the emergency room, and delaying moving into a nursing home. When you compare cost of a nursing home, the blue column, to what it costs to provide 6 hours of home care service a month for a senior, and then 56 meals a month, you can see the comparison. Now, yes, nursing home facilities are around-the-clock care, and that is needed for situations, but if we can prevent that by doing $400 a month, then that's a person's preference, for one, is to live at home for as long as possible, but it does cost less. And then with nutrition, older adults are uniquely vulnerable to the impacts of hunger. Poor nutrition exacerbates current health problems. It can lead to other health issues. This drives up Medicare costs. For example, when you look at the cost of providing Department on Aging services to 10 older adults in their home, that cost compared to, for 10 seniors is about $4,000 a month, but for one senior it's twice that. So just to look at the differences in costs. Again, I realize it's a different kind of care you're giving, but again, if we can prevent someone from needing the higher cost care, that saves money. So the senior millage we're currently in, 2020 is the last year, and we're trying to keep up with the number of people who are contacting us and asking for services. People do prefer to live at home, live independently. The number of older adults in Jackson County keeps increasing. I'm not saying we're going to serve everyone who's over age 60. That's not our purpose. We target services. But this is to show you that the number of requests that we receive for services will keep increasing. Grant amounts are not increasing, but costs do, and the portion of people asking for services keeps growing. General fund, because of and Mike can help me explain this, but because of the strains on the county budget as a whole, for millage funded departments to cover those costs instead of general fund using that money for the millage funded departments. Am I saying that right, Mike?
Basically what she's talking about is for the longest time we've not charged the actual cost of the services that are provided through like Department of Aging or anyone with really those kind of millages. We just generally haven't done that. The health department and so on. When I say that, what I mean is we don't allocate the cost of the HR department or payroll or any of those other departments to those departments. A true, accurate reflection of what it costs to have the Department of Aging would show what it costs to print their paychecks and handle all the other incidentals that go in that. That's where those kind of numbers come from.
Mm-hmm.
Marcy, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get back to the one page. You've got the population numbers in the county and how the seniors 60 and over, the numbers are increasing. Is there a slide or a figure here somewhere that shows the number of seniors that we've historically served with some program with Department on Aging through the years and where it's at now or not? Did I miss that anywhere?
There isn't. I can get that information.
Okay. Thank you.
The particular slide that general fund no longer available for senior programs. I guess I wasn't clear what Mike was telling us. This says to me that general fund monies used to go to the Department of Aging, but now general fund monies do not? What am I
It's not
missing
quite
there?
that clean. Basically what it is we would cover all the cost of HR, say, or finance department, or IT department, through the general fund, not charge Department of Aging for any of those costs. And we've said, well, we can't do that. One, it's not an accurate reflection of what the Department of Aging's costs really are, and two, we don't have the money to do that. So we've said, those of you, particularly those of you with a millage, you need to start paying the full freight of the services you provide, and it needs to be reflected that way in their budget.
If we are no longer providing HR, other services that you had mentioned, if we're no longer providing that for Department of Aging through the general fund,
Well,
where are those monies coming from? Because they still have to have those services provided.
we continue to provide payroll and IT and all those services. The expectation is that the Department of Aging would pay their share of those costs. That comes from their millage and their grants and things like that, the revenue stream.
Was the current millage that they're surviving off of, was that expense planned into that?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, then how are they paying it without reducing these services to seniors?
Well, we're going to basically ask for an increase in the millage. You'll see it coming.
So right now, the county general fund is covering those expenses through 2020. Just a reminder that the services I described are part of the board's healthy community focus to help provide human services that support our people in the community.
Mike, can I ask another question of you mainly? So if I understand it right, the millage that you're asking for will also cover these expenses of IT and payroll and all those things?
That's my suggestion, request.
Your
That's my
recommendation,
request.
okay. And Mike, are there other departments within the county that also pay that same thing through their budgets or not?
Yes.
All of them, pretty much?
Yeah, we try to create a budget that accurately reflects the cost of providing the service, so that we allocate all these different departments, because these are all cost centers, but yet no department can function without an IT department, not in today's world, or a payroll department, or HR, and those kind of functions. Just the same as we do for insurance and all the other stuff, electric and all those kind of things, we allocate those costs across the county to different departments for that. That way, when you do look at the budget, you get an accurate reflection. In the past, they have not necessarily done that. So we're like, well, you know, we are at a point where we really do need to do that. One, again, it creates a more accurate reflection. But as Marcy said, what was it, federal and state grants, you haven't received an increase in 10 years. General fund taxes haven't gone up in long, way, triple that. So we deal with the same thing every year, reduce costs.
So not to get too far into the weeds with it, but so for many of our internal departments, if we're billing those expenses to their budget, it's coming from the general fund anyway, but it's just so we can appropriately expense them, correct? And some departments that have a millage, for instance, the animal shelter probably pays for those same things with their millage, correct?
They do, that's correct.
Okay, thank
As
you.
does parks, and that's just cost of doing business.
Because grant funds have fluctuated depending on certain programs might have received more grant funds in certain years than others, but overall it's been stagnant. If we're looking at if you want to have a millage on the ballot for voter consideration, if we want enough money to last for 10 years, we need enough of a mills so that we have enough funding to maintain services is what I'm describing. It's not to increase. It's to maintain what we're doing. When you look at other counties around us or similar size, here's the senior millage rates for counties. So when I describe maintaining services for 10 years and covering what it costs for the general fund for the services that we described, human resources, payroll, finance, IT. When I crunched the numbers and I checked with the finance director, we're looking at .60 mils to maintain the services that we're currently providing for 10 years.
Question. So just to be clear, we're at .25 and you're requesting .6.
To maintain.
So that's a 140% increase that we're requesting from taxpayers. Okay.
That's correct. And when you see Marcy's math on our spreadsheet and stuff, obviously in the beginning years, we have excess in revenue. But in the later years, as our costs go up every year, it balances out. We'll start burning through that excess in the end, is how it works.
Mike, can I ask another question or two? Marcy, the last millage, was it 10 years also?
It was 8.
8 years, okay. And would it be difficult to get, I appreciate the surrounding counties, what their millages are, but how difficult would it be to get a spreadsheet with maybe all the counties in Michigan, or even just an average of the counties that actually do have millages on what the average is? I fully support what you're wanting to do here, but I just think information's a good thing.
Yep. I'm pretty sure I have from the Michigan directors a report of millages for other counties in Michigan, so I can get that together. Yep. Any more information I could bring back sometime, or any other questions? If you think of something, let Mike know.
Just a couple, and some might be more for Mike than for you, so anybody who wants to feel like. One area I looked at was client donations, which is about 5% of the budget. Private donations, $184,000. Do we have an active campaign looking for local businesses in town that might be willing to donate and offset the cost to taxpayers?
We do have, the campaign we have is called Soups On for Seniors, and that's coordinated by the Department on Aging under the auspices of the Friends of Jackson Seniors nonprofit. And the purpose for that is to raise enough money to replace a meal delivery vehicle, so that that's one less expense to cover under the Department on Aging budget. So that's our main campaign. And letters are sent to businesses asking them to support Meals on Wheels.
So it's primarily mailers, and we don't have anyone going around in person. I know
Correct.
We're not using any more expensive media like radio or anything like that. Okay, and the other question, this is probably for the administrator, is has there been consideration as to what month we would be putting this millage on the ballot?
Yeah, generally this has gone on in August.
Right.
It can go on, well, there's only 3 times a year now.
Well, I'll just point out that November generally is the higher turnout of all the elections. Be a more accurate reflection of the public's desire, whether they want it or not.
You can put it on in November if you choose. The problem with November is it's usually a lot larger ballot. So we find it simpler when you have because people will come out for the primary too. But it's just a shorter ballot.
Just a question. So there's nothing set in stone at this point?
No.
Okay.
But when you're putting out public notices about this upcoming millage, I would say make sure we include what neighboring counties are charging. If people only see the increase from 0.25 to 0.6, they'll see the same thing that Cora and I saw, 140% increase. I mean, that sounds too much, and you won't get much. I think you'll get better support if you include with that. That still leaves us the lowest millage in any of the neighboring counties. If people know what other counties, other communities have supported, that'll be an advantage, I believe.
questions or concerns? I haven't seen Zoe yet, so I'm stalling.
Delane did reach out to her office and emailed her, and we haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If we had her PowerPoint presentation, we could look at that.
Hey, we asked for that more than once. She was working on it. Unfortunately, without that, I think we're going to have to move on and finish out the business.
John Wilson, thank you. You got 2 sure votes, it looks like, for a new millage, for a tax increase. Not surprised with Commissioner Elwell at all, but Tony Bear, is that the same Tony Bear that used to come in front of this county commission and speak on limited government and low taxes? Is that the same Tony Bear? I don't think so. You've been captured, Tony. Anyways, did any of these commissioners know for the 2020 budget that they voted on that you cut senior services? Did you know that? Apparently it's a surprise. You cut senior services in that 2020 budget. And the county commission has an obligation to fund county agencies. And you're not funding this county agency appropriately. Instead, Mr. Elwell's suggestion and what he's going to cheerlead for, along with Mr. Bear, is to go to the property owners of Jackson County and ask them to once again raise their property taxes. And I don't see how the county budget's constrained. Go look at that second floor ballroom for these upcoming black tie affairs. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any commissioner comments? I guess we are adjourned.